We are the keepers of our future and our past, and the names of our heroes past and gone, on whose courage, strength, and wisdom the Northshield stands. Teach their stories to your children, to our children, till their names are written in our blood and bone.
And welcome to the Griffin Tales series. I'll be your host this evening. I'm Baron Bastien de la Mesa. And with me tonight, you made me do this once a long time ago, and I completely forgot. His Excellency, Maestro Christoforo Alfonso Pallavincino di Firenze. Welcome, Baron Foro.
Hello.
Glad to see you again. Good to see you. So, starting the questions, how did you start in the SCA?
It was the distant past of 1986. I was going to the University of Minnesota, and before I'd even started, they had the student, as part of the student orientation, they had the club activities, not seminar, what's the word I'm looking for, but they had a room where every club activity had a booth. And I was going through and I saw the fencing and the saber fencing, went, ooh, I'll have to come back to this. And then I came to the SCA booth. And Murin was there, Lachlan was there with the helmet and a couple of rattan swords, and it just reeled me right in. And so from the tender age of 18 in 1986, I started up then and there.
And did you
was going to their meetings like
heavy fighting there? Did you immediately started having fighting then?
As it took me a month or two because it took me a little while because getting loaner gear together was a bit, but we did have some loaner gear available, and I did start practicing. I think I was authorized in my first style within 6 to 9 months. I went the fighter angle pretty hard when I wasn't being shy, sensitive artist, as some will remember back then, because just getting used to being in a new group and not knowing anyone other than the people who brought me in is a common thread, I think. It takes a little while to get your feet under you.
Yeah, it always seems to. So back then, what was your persona? Did you have a persona back then?
I know it was vaguely Italian, and I think Viscount Tristan will still give me a hard time, because while I was researching, I had come across Christoforo, and I was still a little bit in that fantasy realm. So I was like Christoforo of the Black Hand, and then reading. I think it was The Courtier by Castiglione. And I found pretty much all my names in the various positions, although Pallavincino is a corruption, what would be a branch family of the main name of Pallavincini. But I preferred the sound of Pallavincino. So within about 6 months, I had the name Christoforo Alfonso Pallavincino da Firenze, and just rolled with that as a ne'er-do-well merchant's kid who got a little bit booted, which was fairly common practice for the time. If you read the autobiography of Benvenuto Cellini, he was kicked in and out. The various Medicis were kicked in and out. So it was not too unusual to be kicked out of the Republic every once in a while.
Okay. Now, did you maintain that persona
since then?
To this time? Okay, yeah, because a lot of us lot of us have kind of gone through up and downs with our persona, but you've maintained that the entire. And I'm sorry. Now, if I've got this right, you said 86.
Yeah, some 30 some years.
Oh, oh, you know what? I don't even want to do that much math. 30 some years. Okay.
33 years. 30, no, wait, 35 years.
Okay.
Granted, there was a 12-year break in there, but 35 years. Now, some people, of course, because I was also doing a lot of Japanese research, had thought, Foro, that sounds kind of Japanese. No, it's not. With that, I always use the cover story if I need to of, grandson with the same name, tagging along with a Portuguese trade mission.
Okay.
It worked. I'm sure there was an Italian or two over there in the late period.
Oh, very likely. So,
Or you know what? These clothes are comfy. I don't care.
works for me. So, one of my favorite stories I'm going to ask you to tell is how you earned your coronet.
Oh, which as a member of the Republic, we don't often wear coronets. I only wear them when I'm out of the Republic. That's what the pearls on the hat for, to represent the coronet. In 1992, just after accepting Sir Angus Ulrich's offer to be his squire, I got the offer to teach English in Japan. And so I moved over to the Japanese countryside, about an hour outside of Kyoto, up in the mountains. Lovely place. And I'd brought some of my armor with me, and I went to one event in the barony of the Far West, and just got walloped. I was out of practice, and they just slaughtered me. And then I had come back after my first year in Japan, brought my armor with me back to Japan. So I had my armor there, got walloped. Then I got the word that Angus had passed. And as his squire overseas, unable to mourn with everybody, hits me hard to this day. The baronial tournament comes up, and it's by right of arms. There's alternating arms and ANS to choose the new baron. It's a Palatine barony. They're far out in the middle of nowhere. They don't get to see royalty. Therefore, they have theirs by competition. Barons change every 6 months. I think nowadays they have thrown light weapons into the mix. So it's a 3 cycle. I was in the rare instance of being far enough out in the boonies where I had a house with a backyard with a dead tree in it. And by the time the tournament came around, I had loosened the roots using it as a pell. So it was about as big as my arm, and it was moving every time I had hit it. And I went in and I slaughtered people. I was not messing around. There was a knight who was a local person who had just become a knight and was transferring back. And I had been warned he was a little bit of a rhino. He had 12 gauge legs. And the first shot I threw was to his legs and got the tip of his shield down just in time. Knowing that I was going for 12 gauge legs, the sound was like a gunshot through the place. Every head turned. As I was hearing from people who I had met in the last event. And it was, oh my God, and who is that? Because I'd been to, I think, Kadena Air Force Base. This was up in, I believe, Misawa. So only about a third of the people had ever met me, and it was only at one event. But I'd been in the area for long enough to be eligible. I steamrolled everybody else. And they were a bit confused when I was giving giving my honors, because the last one to the person who inspires you, I'd bow to Mistress Marixa of Crawfordmere, who was my consort, and then I would do a full genuflection to the east, representing Angus. And those who knew the story explained to everybody else. And then got up and I felt bad for one guy. He had a beautiful sallet with the necklames and everything. I had taken his legs. I was fighting two-stick. And I threw a left and he blocked, and I left an opening, and I came in with the right. I meant to get him here. I got him right below the chin, left a big crease in the lanes. Like, it wouldn't have like taken his head off, but I thought afterwards, like, oh Jesus, I'm sorry, but I'm not in the mood. I was dead serious fighting that day, and won. So for the next 6 months, I was Baron of the Far West. I went to the various groups in the Japanese islands. Never made it to Guam. I talked to them, but I never made it out there, and there wasn't Korea or Taiwan at the time.
Were these all mostly the SCA? Were these mostly just American servicemen?
They were mostly American service people. There was a few locals, and actually going through pictures, I just found a bunch of pictures from my reign, which I have to scan and put up. There were a few who were trickling in, but at the time for the Japanese, there's so much history and recreation that they could do of their own culture that it was usually those who had an interest in Western recreation who joined up, or they enjoyed, they were practicing their English, whatever reason they had to hang out with a bunch of foreign service people, be it history or just, hey, we like hanging out with Americans. It worked. And the best thing is at that time of my reign, the yen was at an all-time high against the dollar, and I was paid in yen. So my lunch money bought like pizza and beer for everybody. I loved going to base.
That's fantastic. How long did you stay in Japan?
I was there for 3 years, from August of 1992 to August of 1995.
Okay. And then when you came back, where did you land?
I came back. I landed back here in Nordskogen. Things had changed a little bit, but I got a lot of, oh, you're Foro. And pretty much picked up where I had left off, hanging out with with the Lost Boys and Morin and Lachlan and my other college friends, and just getting back into fighting, being silly, dressing up in drag at events, which I'd started before I left for Japan, back when I was, when I was Bard of Nordskogen. I did warlords in drag, which there are pictures on my Facebook of.
Was that before or after Japan?
That was before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
How long? I'm sorry. I'm going to go back in the timeline here. You started in 86, and when did you go to Japan?
92.
92. Okay. So yeah, you had a 6
I had a good 6 years in.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had my AOA. I had my purple threat by then because we were still mid-realm.
Right. Yeah. Were you around for the transition for when Northshield became a kingdom? No, I was not. I remember fighting in, I think, the 3rd Principality tournament. Okay. I first lost to Tarek, and then I lost to the eventual winner, whose name I forget, so I didn't feel too bad. But that's when I entered in the tournament to
to the We Will Rock You stomp clap, because Knight's Tale had come out a little bit before. So yes, not taking anything too seriously. But then in 2001, 2002, big old attack of life, dropped out of the SCA for about 13 years. During that time, Northshield became a kingdom, and a whole lot of SCA culture changed. So I came back to a bit of culture shock, but then I had changed a lot too. So like all my armor had shrunk. So it took me a while to get back into fighting. And so in the meantime, I figured, oh, I'll give this calligraphy stuff I'd done a little bit of calligraphy before and a little bit of translation before, but never really gotten into it too deep. But while I'm working on my armor,
Yeah,
I'll help out with this calligraphy stuff.
that actually transitions into my next question. A lot of people get into the SCA or a lot of folks will get into the SCA. And the first thing we'd love to do is we see fighting and we go right after fighting. And after it takes usually some bit of time, but typically I'd like to think that a lot of us start to find other arts. And yours, you decided, was calligraphy.
Yeah, well, I had like I said, I'd done some calligraphy before. Did nothing on kingdom level because we were mid-Rome. Back then, we saw a king maybe every other year. So there's a lot of local stuff. And I think I'd done like maybe 2 or 3 awards, really, and otherwise it's just having fun fooling around calligraphy. Like I did a custom piece of calligraphy for Mr. Saramanthra. When I came back, I didn't know what to do with myself at events because I wasn't immediately putting on armor and fighting. I was 13 years older. My armor no longer fit. And I was not in as good of a shape as I wanted to be for fighting. And also I had, kind of just getting online and looking up what was going on. And I looked at the calligraphy and I looked at the stuff that had been done for Japanese persona. And I bless their hearts, they're trying moment. So I started working on that, and my first 1 or 2 back, I think my first award that I did back was for Edwin. And looking back on that one, I'm glad I didn't take a picture of it. And it's like, oh, that's a first attempt. Ooh. But I kept at it, and I kept at it, and then Toyoka won. One crown. Then I got really busy on the Japanese side, and my skills there skyrocketed. And I went more from using modern Japanese, obviously modern Japanese, to more period styles of Japanese. So it was, something to do while my armor got done, and my armor took a lot longer to get done than I expected.
Okay. So, and then following along that trail, you received the title of Maestro.
Yeah. I kept joking that especially after Toyoka's reign, that I need to take a break. I'm a little bit burnt out on calligraphy. I need to take a break from my laurel path so I can start working on my chivalry path again. Jokes like that come to bite you if you're not careful. at the time, there was, and even around the known world, I saw a lot of faux script, which was, in my opinion, not the best. I'm actually hoping soon to have finished and published a Chinese-Japanese faux script that is more aligned with calligraphy principles. And but so I had run into the website Woodford Hall of Mistress Sanji Nohana out on the West Coast, and wonderful resource for everything Japanese except language. And there she would, she had, if you want Japanese translations, talk to me, I'll hook you up. I contacted her and said, well, I want to be one of your hookups. Because I lived in Japan for 3 years. I came back and got my Japanese bachelor's degree. So I have a dual degree in English and Japanese.
Okay.
Mundanely. So of course I work in the technology field.
Of course.
And so she started sending me people. And so I started fielding translation requests from people around the world, Drachenwald included, and worked up pretty much a pattern for Japanese awards and translations, and would send out examples with traceable script, because I do have calligraphy fonts on my computer. So for those who've never picked up a brush before, they can at least get it looking kind of right if they, lay over and copy. Copying is period, even in Japan. So that's part of how I learned my calligraphy. Apparently, aside from the work that I had done here in Kingdom, word was getting out around. And people would say, thank you so much, for your help. What can I do? It's like, well, if you like my work, tell my bosses. That's how we get raises. That's what I do at work too. Yeah, apparently they were. I think at the boon request, gonna hate me for not remembering his SCA name right at the moment, but Mikey.
Yes.
Was visiting Midrealm, and someone who was very shy had slipped a note like onto the throne saying, thanks to Christoforo for helping with all this. So I guess that cumulative effect, aside with other reasons, got me the Maestro. Got me the Laurel. There are rumors that, I had a hard time with it initially because of imposter syndrome. That's why I took a while, initially it took a while between begging, getting the boon begged and having it. And then also, again, life gets in the way, and it ended up being a full year, which I don't recommend for anyone because you overthink it. But yeah, so I became a Laurel for calligraphy and Japanese. Well, I say it's European and Asian calligraphy and Japanese culture, because there was no specifically you're getting it for this, but those were the areas where I did all of my research and work. So, and the Kagan, which was his title at the time, called that out in the begging of the boon. Was, you saw his art here tonight, when I had just done a knighting scroll. So that's when the light at the end of the tunnel turned out to be the train.
All right. So, looking back, do you recall a time where you were a part of Northshield history?
Northshield history.
Right.
See, a lot of mine was Nordskogen history. But I was there when, our first knights were made. When Sir Angus and Sir Corwin were first knighted. Back when, I should say, our region, which apparently became a dirty word for a while I was not paying attention. Our region got their first knights. I was there when, it was Komar and Lisa had come out, and they knighted Angus and Corwin. And then I think it was before then. Komar was fun. He got the joke. He got my jokes pretty well. He was not fazed by the Cobra Cod piece. He was amused by it. Yes, I had a cod piece in the shape of a cobra's head and hood. For those who are not aware of what I'm talking about, I was a very silly person back in the day.
Very distracting.
I was there when Viscount Tristan, who was living temporarily in Anstiora, brought up some of their fencers for an exhibition, and that was the first time we'd seen SCA light weapons. They got special dispensation to play at Warlords. That was when I was the first Bard of Nordskogen, and confused them because Anstiorans were not used to seeing guys in dresses and women in tights and doublets. Those would be the two big ones that I can think of.
Okay.
Otherwise, I was just a witness to a lot of the regional stuff.
All right. Well, let's follow that. Let's follow that thread down, and let's try this. Everybody, especially when you start counting your time in the SCA in decades.
Yeah.
Everybody's got and I'm going to paraphrase this, no kidding, there I was story.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear the one that you think of that when it comes right to the top of your head. That's the story I'd like to hear.
No kidding, there I was. Most of the ones that come to the top of the head involve me.
Okay.
Because I'm self-centered. No kidding, there I was when we knew something was up when Angus's knight visited from Callantyr. And I can't remember who Corwin's knight was. I'm not sure if they were aware beforehand if they were going to be knighted or not, because I was a snot-nosed kid who, hung out with Angus at fighter practice. He and I would get there sometimes and be like, well, if nobody else shows up, we're just gonna call it in 15 minutes and go to Pizza Hut. And sometimes fighter practice was full, back when it was held on U of M campus. But at one of the Warlords, his knight had come up from Callantyr, and so there was a bit of a buzz, and Corwin's knight was there, and there was a bit of a buzz. And Corwin's household, I'm sure, had a pretty good idea. But yeah, when they were brought up together for their knighting, it was there was definitely a cheer.
So how do you have any of those stories that particularly apply to directly to you?
Um, so, and I told this recently in a in Northwatch. They had an issue on SCA stories and about how I became Bard of Nordskogen. And so it was, it's a set of 2 stories, basically. And I'll try to do the quick versions. Bard of Nordskogen, Bridget and Caradoc decided, we need to add to the court. We want a bard. So they posted a competition for 12th night, 2 parts. One would be known in advance and one would be on the day. And the topic for in advance was Nordskogen history. And so I wrote a satirical and somewhat inappropriate poem regarding that in, I believe, Italian sonnet format. And I have, of course, my documentation. Because you have documentation to back up your silliness. I may be silly, but I'm period in my silliness, damn it. That's why I could get away with running around in drag from time to time. I have documentation. And for the event, I brought along my dictionaries, and this was actually before I went to Japan, but I had 2 years of Japanese under my belt anyways. I brought my dictionaries and my calligraphy stuff because I'd taken some classes at the U. And they announced at morning court that the second half would be what the beasts think of Nordskogen. So I did a quick piece and had that ready to go. I was going for maximum pimp. Felix Needleworthy had made his first European garb. Yeah, if you like Felix Needleworthy's garb, I was the first one to get him to do non-Japanese, including doublets, chiopa, and dress. So I was the first lady's garb as well. But so I was there in this voluminous blue robe. I had hired now Viscount Niklos to be my bodyguard. I had hired a young lady to be my handmaiden. It's going to be glorious. We accidentally stole head table at feast. And
accidentally or actually accidentally?
I asked Bridget and Caradoc if they're going to sit in this section because it was a U shape for a high table. It was a 3-tier feast. And they said, no, we're going to be over here on the wing. I'm like, okay, so we'll take the center section. Later on, the stewards come up. This is for the Baron and Baroness. Like, well, they said they were sitting over there, so we took it.
Fair enough.
So we go to court, and during the day, for some reason, I started losing my voice. And by the time it came to read my poem for Baroness Bridget, Baron Caradoc, and I think a visiting Baron from Yaravetler, I had literally no voice. So I was leaning forward and whispering as loud as I could this ribald poem. So we get to court. I have my nice chair with a nice, cloak over it. I have an end table that I can have my drink on. My servant sitting behind me. I have a little table for snacks. I'm just going to be comfy. I have a little thing to put my feet up on. And the first order of business is to call for the winner, and it was me. And they had a little stool about that tall for me to sit on in court. As I looked longingly out at my nice comfy chair that now my handmaiden is sitting in. So we come around to Warlord, and they were expecting, of course, someone to entertain, but unfortunately, like tell stories, sing music, whatever. I'm more of a a back and forth comedian rather than a telling stories. But for funsies, I decided that I would attend court in my new dress. Not much makeup because, you know, it's camping. And they were having the muster for Penzik. So they would call out all the fighters would line up, and they would go down the line. It's like, okay, well, I'm, you know, Bob of the Northwoods, I fight sword and shield and spear. I'm, you know, Linda of the Southwoods, I fight, you know, your name and what you're fighting in. And I was doing maximum flutter throughout, but at a certain point, I would jump out of the court, run into line, be as butch as possible. Like, I'm Christoforo Alfonso, I'm Lord Christoforo Alfonso Pallavincino de Firenze. I'm authorized in all 8 styles. I will be fighting those for the glory of, you know, Nordskogen and the Mid-Realm. Okay, thank you. And then flutter back into line and be all fluttery. I did that for the fighting and for the archery. And I think that's where the Anstioran started to get really confused. But I gotta tell you, they are nice for airflow. I'll give dresses that. They are nice for airflow.
I hate to say it, I'm gonna have to just kind of take your word for it. So,
Or long tunics, the early garb. That's why I started wearing early garb too.
well, all right. So, again, I'm going to state this because I really like saying this. As somebody who's been in our society for decades, what advice might you give to the brand new participant in the SCA?
Bear with.
Sure.
That's not the advice. I just need a fan.
Ah.
Now that speaking of fluttering, the advice I would give would be, well, pretty much the advice that Angus gave me. If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So no matter what you're doing, have fun with it. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, I've been fortunate enough to have never really gotten caught up in politics, personal politics. And I've held every office except exchequer, you know, including, you know, the sovereign, as it were. And, you know, if it's a business thing, cool. If it's not, yeah, don't buy into that.
Okay.
So I don't play politics. I've never been involved in politics.
Okay.
Avoid that if possible.
Okay. So that's a fantastic don't. What's a good do?
Research. Do your research. Especially since, you know, some people want to be all authenticity police and stuff. Like, that's not period. Like, I beg to differ, and here's my proof. That's why, like, for my names, I had research, you know, back in, you know, 87, I had research for all of my silly, inappropriate poetry. I had research for pretty much everything I do. And, you know, while the internet and the electronic society may have hurt us a little bit in people not needing that or not having that face-to-face, at least before COVID, you know, in the larger campuses, it's a blessing for research. Oh, doing research in the late 80s, early 90s, where you had to scour through libraries and try to find a book, or interlibrary loan. Research is such a dream right now. and especially for calligraphy, with everyone digitizing their collections, it's wonderful. Granted, I still have like 15 books that of primary resources for calligraphy, but if you're doing something and it's, yeah, just research. Don't assume it's period. Find out.
Outstanding. So is there something that you maybe wish that you had done that you never did?
Never got to do. I've fought on the islands of the far west. I've fought in red sandstone castles in Scotland and in the woods of Finland. I've held down my tent with my body weight to keep it from blowing away at Lily's War. I've chocolate pudding wrestled in at Pemswick. Dig up, digging in your ears 3 days later and you're still coming up with pudding. There's not I have fought in at least coronet tournament for the principality crown, or the principality coronet tournament. I've fought some of the best a little bit of an emotional question right now. I fought some of the best. I fought Dag and Ish and Palomar in their prime. Got thoroughly whipped by them. I've skunked Viscount Tristan. I confused, just utterly baffled Ziggy on the field one time. Not things that I wish I could have done, other than say, win crown. And I was working towards that. Figured I'd had one good run left in me. So a lot of it is things that I would like to do again. So I would have liked to have hit Pemswick one more time. I'd take that back. I never did make it to golf. I wanted to go to Gulf War and I never went. And that was my plan either for 2020, 2021. And as we know, those are out. So it's, I can honestly look back and say, I've done a lot. And pretty full career.
Good. Can you I think we're just about at the point of wrapping this up. Can you, when you look back on your history with Northshield,
mm-hmm.
what moment in time just do you bring back to give yourself, to make you feel like, oh, that was the greatest day?
Oh, there's a lot of those. I can honestly say that my time in Northshield made me the person that I am today. It was, and still is, an incredible family. And, had our ups and downs. But the people that I've met and played with, who saw me at my worst and at my best, I have moments in time. If I had to pick a certain one, there are ones like when I was Bard of Nordskogen. That was a pretty spectacular year. That was my first taste of being in court. During that, we had a tournament. It was Nordskogen versus the world. And every fighter in Nordskogen had a shield, a little shield like this one that Angus had made. And it was hung up on a board. It was a challenge tournament. And so the visiting fighters would come up, they would tap the shield of the person they wanted to fight, and they'd go out and fight. Tristan was already pretty much a top fighter by then. But as a member of the court, I got to be out there with the introductions. And so at the beginning of the day, the Baron and Baroness are like, welcome everybody, and let's have fun and everything. And then I got a chance to say a few words, and it was, well, as Bard of Nordskogen, I'd like to welcome you all to our lands and have a good day of fighting. And I would also like to say, your mama, that's me. I will see you on the field. I was leaving the field just long enough to change weapons. Meanwhile, Tristan was like, nobody wants to fight me. Like, we're all gonna beat on the smart ass over there. Oh, I was, literally coming out like, drop two stick, pick up polearm, go back out. That's when, and Ziggy and Tristan probably don't remember this, but it's deep in my mind. I'd been fighting in a very high stance all day long. And then Ziggy went up, gave the tap, Siegfried von Kumbach. And it was like, gave the tap. I'm like, okay, there's two stick versus two stick. I come out and we, they say lay on, and I immediately go into a deep horse stance. And not just a regular horse stance, a sideways horse stance, low to the ground. And I see Siegfried do this. He's like, and he came in trepidatiously. He still beat the heck out of me, but made him think. Made him think. The other big one I would say would be the begging of the boon, and the year-long, what's the word? I'm losing the word. Vigil. Year-long vigil. Just because I was literally sitting in court, and this was a day. Because I had Niklas was knighting his squire, and he asked if it was okay to use Angus's belt. Niklas would have been Angus's third squire had Angus not passed. And Angus's squires, myself and Lachlan, agreed yes, on condition that if either one of us gets elevated, we want the belt back. And I was working towards that, then COVID hit. And I had written a bit for court when we gave it over to Niklas. I showed it to Master Frederick beforehand. He looked at it and he was just like, "Oh, you're mean," as the tears ran down his face. I went for the heart on that one. So went up, did that part. Everyone in the room, tears in their eyes. Rusty, Aaron of Buckminster, yeah, gave me a hard time about it afterwards. So like, cool. Then the knighting of Togashi Ichiro, where I had written his oath out for him in Japanese, and then did the scroll. And apparently it read well enough that even the people who are outside of the room in the back could see it, and the what made everyone go ooh. And I thought, okay, cool, I'm done. You know, I go to sit down. I'm with Frederick's lady and apprentices. And I get up to go take a break, and and Gwilyn is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm gonna be back in 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Give me a break. She's like, "Okay." I come back and they're announcing people are being put on vigil, and lady is being put on vigil um, for Pelican. And I happen to be looking directly at her when they call her name, and just jaw drops, usual reaction. And then two people are put on vigil for Laurel, for their 13th century recreation. And I'm sorry that I'm forgetting names. Mine, like I said, too many shots to the head. And don't block with your head. Another piece of advice. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, maybe I should talk to somebody about like actually apprenticing, because I'm not apprenticed to anybody. Maybe I should, look and see what I need to do to, like, maybe next year or something, become a Laurel. And that's when Frederick and Shava Begaboon. And I'm sitting there and they're talking about the person. And then I'm like, I wonder who they're talking about. Clueless. And I look over and I see Frederick's apprentice has the barest hint of a smirk. And that's when it starts dawning on me. And that light at the end of the tunnel keeps coming closer as the train approaches. When they finally say, and you've seen his artwork tonight.
Oh dear.
And then they called my name and I wasn't believing it. I literally had to be pulled up into court. And the cheer was, I was told it was loud. I really didn't hear anything. I know that afterwards, Master Cadwallon, said some very complimentary things, and I, with the problem with sincerity, immediately tried to like make a joke of it, and then I felt really bad and apologized to him for it. So yeah, I meant to only do 2 emotions at court and got 3. I made everyone cry and made everyone go ooh, and then apparently a loud cheer. That was a primary day for me. And everyone kept it a secret from me, including you.
Yeah.
You all knew. You all knew.
That is true. Fortunately, today is not about me.
Petronella knew, and I was talking to her, and she just totally blanked me out. It was
The SCA is full of good actors.
Yes, it is.
Very good at holding secrets, most of us.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, that was a really, really wonderful look back at some of not only your own personal history, but some of the history of Northshield.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't give like better ones of like the first, the first prince and princess being coronated. I was usually off making mischief or outside for 5 to 7 minutes which Morin says there should be an award named after me for missing important things in court because you stepped away for a couple of minutes.
Eh. I mean, let's be honest. Everybody misses something every now and then.
Yeah.
So, okay, you know what? That's I think a really wonderfully round version of let me put this in a different way. That's a nice little microcosm of what you've seen. So, thank you. And here's where I'm going to step in and be a little less of the interviewer and just say this. I've known you for 20. Oh gosh.
Oh, the math hurts.
Yeah, the math is beginning to sting. I've known you since
At least 25 years.
at least 25 years since
I came back from Japan.
We have been roommates. We have been friends a very long time. I credit you with more than a few things that I've learned in my life. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you as on behalf of the whole kingdom. I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to say that you are a treasure in this kingdom and are fondly looked at and a beautiful and wonderful source of inspiration, which is why we love you. So, Baron, oh my God, you know what? I'm not gonna do this again. You pain in the ass. His Excellency, Maestro Christoforo Alfonso Pallavincino da you know I should know this. I was there.
Da Firenze.
Da
Christoforo Alfonso Pallavincino da Firenze. See,
and I know I should be saying Maestro Foro, but I've known you as Baron Foro for just so darned long. It's kind of come out that way. Baron
yeah,
Foro.
I usually go by Baron Foro because I've been Baron for, let's face it, since 1994. My email address has been Baron Foro since 1994.
Isn't that when Yahoo started?
Actually, my original Earthlink one was just Foro at Earthlink. But when I went to Yahoo and then Gmail, Baron Foro at, yeah.
Okay, we're not going to go through the history of the internet. But,
no.
Baron Foro, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been absolutely amazing. We wish you well, and as a personal note, I will see you soon.
Thank
Have
you.
yourself a wonderful night. Ladies and gentlemen of Northshield, thank you very much for joining us tonight on Griffin's Tales.
Until fate brings us shoulder to shoulder to stand as brothers again.